Want to learn tons of interesting facts in 1 hour? Subscribe to Zarpado. We are starting now. In Sweden, a company is training crows to collect cigarette butts and small pieces of litter in the city. Every time they deliver trash to a special machine, they receive food as a reward. These birds are intelligent enough to become allies in urban cleanup. Steve Buscemi was a member of the Manhattan Fire Department for 4 years. When the September 11 attacks occurred, he returned as a volunteer. He worked with his former station for 12 weeks without seeking recognition. Much of the show, Pawn Stars, is filmed with a pre-scripted script. The objects that appear have already been inspected, cleaned, and appraised. Even the participants' reactions follow a predefined structure. Canadian scientists discovered more than 50 gallons of urine in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. They used the sweetener acesulfame K as a marker in their analysis. This compound appears in urine and does not easily degrade in water. People with dogs tend to have lower blood pressure and cholesterol levels. Pets encourage exercise, reduce stress, and improve socialization. Living with a dog improves physical health and emotional well-being. Wolf cats emerged in the United States from a natural mutation in 2010. They have sparse fur, an intense gaze, and a playful and affectionate personality. Their unusual appearance has made them popular among those who appreciate the unconventional. The world's tallest swing is located in Chongqing, China. It reaches almost 330 feet in height and swings over a chasm. Before it opened, more than 4,000 safety tests were conducted. In India, a gigantic sculpture of the mythological bird Jatayu was built. It measures more than 200 feet long and depicts the battle against the demon Ravana. The artwork combines spirituality, mythology, and architecture on a sacred hill. The famous Hollywood sign began as a real estate advertisement in 1923. It originally read Hollywood Land and was later restored. Today, it symbolizes the film industry and the glamour of Los Angeles. Hyenas produce white feces due to their bone-rich diet. The high concentration of calcium leaves their droppings with a chalky appearance. These traces reveal key information to ecologists about their diet. Gently guiding a sleepwalker is better than letting them wander. Although waking them may seem risky, the real danger is letting them sleepwalk aimlessly. Speaking calmly and guiding them back to bed is the safest option. Picasso's full name includes more than 20 words and saints. He was named Pablo Diego José Francisco de Paula Juan Nepomuceno María de los Remedios, a Spanish family tradition that celebrated religious figures and ancestors. Xiaomi launched an electric sedan with artificial intelligence called the SU7. It can park itself and reach speeds of up to 155 miles per hour. In Yucatan, you will find the Chicxulub crater, the origin of the dinosaurs' extinction. It is about 112 miles in diameter and about 12 miles deep. Strange metals in the area confirmed its extraterrestrial origin in 1980. The macaque monkeys of Bali skillfully steal items from tourists. Phones, glasses, and cameras disappear in seconds. Locals offer food to the monkeys in exchange for the return of their stolen belongings. Jackie Chan and Jack Black worked on the Kung Fu Panda saga for over a decade without ever meeting in person. Jackie voiced Master Monkey in Chinese, while Jack voiced Po in English. They only met for the first time in a hotel in China after years of working separately. There are artificially created clouds that reflect sunlight to lower the planet's temperature. They form when water vapor containing particles is released into the atmosphere and can cause rain after about an hour. Michael is a model representing the gamers of the future. He displays effects such as baldness, a hunchback, a prominent belly, and skull deformities, consequences of poor posture and diet. He was created to raise awareness about the lifestyle of gamers. The world's largest airplane, known as the Flying Bum, plans to land in Mallorca. It can carry up to 100 passengers and take off from almost any flat surface, which could change travel as we know it. The hairs in our noses, called cilia, filter the air we breathe by trapping harmful particles. They also warm the air before it reaches our lungs, which is why it is best not to remove them. Wilson unveiled a 3D printed basketball that is completely hollow and airless. It bounces just like a traditional one, and its structure allows for normal gameplay. It is available in white, black, and brown, with a price of around $2,000. In Taupo, New Zealand, there is a McDonald's inside a decommissioned Douglas DC-3 airplane. The dining room, which seats 20, is one of the most unusual in the world and has been there for over 3 decades. Drooling during sleep indicates that the body is completely relaxed. Babies and children do it frequently, but as they grow and stress increases, this sign of deep sleep usually disappears. Some modern cars display the time remaining until the traffic light turns green. This is achieved by connecting to the city's traffic networks. In the future, this feature could be standard on all vehicles. In Colombia, the restaurant El Morgano offers insults as part of its service. Waiters playfully insult customers while serving food, which has turned the place into a viral phenomenon. The world's largest flower garden is located in Dubai. Called the Miracle Garden, it contains more than 190 million flowers and is open from November to April. It includes a floral replica of an Airbus, a 380. Nakizumo is a Japanese festival where babies compete to make them cry. Parents and sumo wrestlers try to make the child cry as part of a tradition that wards off evil spirits and promotes good health. Germany boasts more than 500 types of beer. It also celebrates Oktoberfest, the world's largest beer festival, where millions of gallons of beer are consumed over more than 2 weeks. Paper bread is a Korean culinary trend, known for its extreme thinness and crispy texture. Although it resembles a leaf, it is eaten as a snack or as a side dish in various recipes. The Evzones are soldiers of the Greek Presidential Guard. They must be over 6 feet tall and able to raise their leg to shoulder height as part of their rigorous ceremonial routine. The hydrofoiler is an electric bicycle capable of traveling on water at about 12 miles per hour. It uses a propeller powered by pedals and a motor, combining sport with eco-friendly technology. A drone breaks records by reaching a speed of about 220 miles per hour. Its speed is comparable to that of a Formula One car and represents a major advance in aeronautical engineering. Since ancient times, humanity has collected stories that defy logic, and one of the most surprising dates back to 1855, when mysterious hoofprints appeared in the snow in Devon, England. In addition to stretching over more than 93 miles, these markings climbed walls and roofs without interruption. Even today, researchers refer to this phenomenon as the devil's footprints. On the other hand, when discussing enigmatic phenomena, it is impossible to ignore the case of Mary Toft, an Englishwoman who in 1726 claimed to have given birth to rabbits. Although it was later discovered that the entire event was a carefully orchestrated hoax, the deception was so convincing that even the king's surgeon, Nathaniel Street Andre, believed it to be real. This episode not only shook the medical establishment of the time, but also demonstrated how fragile human credulity can be when presented with an irresistible mystery. Likewise, we cannot forget a scientific curiosity that continues to amaze: the phenomenon of the moss Centricia cananervis, capable of surviving almost without water. This organism, studied by NASA in 2014, can withstand more than 20 years completely dehydrated and revive in minutes when it regains moisture. Thanks to this discovery, biologists expanded their theories about the possibility of life in extreme environments, even on Mars. However, the natural world holds even more mysteries, such as the case of the pando tree, located in Utah, United States. Although at first glance it looks like a forest, it is actually a single organism composed of more than 47,000 genetically identical stems. According to studies from 2008, pando could be more than 14,000 years old, making it one of the oldest living things on the planet. Equally astonishing is the story of the most accurate clock ever created, the strontium atomic clock, developed at the University of Colorado in 2013 by physicist Jun Ye. This device has such a small margin of error that it would take more than 5 billion years to deviate by a single second. Similarly, it is worth remembering that in 2012, archaeologists excavating beneath a parking garage in Leicester, England, unearthed the skeleton of King Richard III, who had been missing since 1485. The discovery confirmed the historical accuracy of his hunchback and revealed multiple fatal wounds suffered at the Battle of Bosworth. Thanks to modern genetics, it was possible to identify him by comparing his mitochondrial DNA with that of a living descendant of his maternal family. Another equally fascinating fact comes from the literary world. In 1841, Edgar Allan Poe wrote The Purloined Letter, one of the first detective stories. Remarkably, Poe anticipated actual police investigation techniques that were not formalized until decades later. His influence was so profound that authors like Arthur Conan Doyle, creator of Sherlock Holmes, acknowledged that without Poe, the genre would not exist as we know it today. In the field of archaeology, a memorable discovery occurred in 1974 when the terracotta warriors of Emperor Qin Shi Huang were unearthed in China. Comprising more than 8,000 figures, each with unique facial features, this ceramic army remained hidden for over 2 millennia. Furthermore, some reports indicate that the emperor's central mausoleum has not yet been opened for fear of damaging its purported world map depicting oceans made of liquid mercury. As if that were not enough, the world of records also offers astonishing facts, such as the case of Jeanne Calment, the French woman born in 1875 who lived to be 122 years old. Her longevity, confirmed by official records, made her the oldest documented person. Among the most striking anecdotes is that she met Vincent van Gogh in 1888 and claimed that the painter seemed dirty, rude, and unpleasant. One of the most unique curiosities relates to the oldest known star map, the Nebra sky map, discovered in Germany in 1999. This bronze disc, inlaid with gold depicting the sun, moon, and constellations, was created around 1600 BC. However, there are also little-known stories about animals with almost impossible abilities, such as the marine snail Elysia chlorotica. Scientifically described in 1870, this tiny creature can photosynthesize by integrating the chloroplasts of the algae it consumes into its body. This means it can live for weeks without eating, simply feeding on sunlight. This peculiar ability has been the subject of biotechnology studies since 1998. However, if we go back to antiquity, we find details that surprise us with their ingenuity, such as the Roman heating system called the hypocaust. Used from the 1st century, it worked by means of hot air currents that circulated under the raised floors of baths in wealthy homes. Although it may seem like a modern advancement, the Romans had already mastered this method almost 2 millennia ago. Likewise, there are stories as unexpected as that of Hiroo Onoda, a Japanese soldier who continued fighting for almost 30 years after the end of World War II. From 1945 to 1974, he remained hidden on Lubang Island in the Philippines, convinced that the war was still ongoing. He only surrendered when his former commander traveled there to order him to do so personally. For its part, the animal kingdom offers one of the most surprising curiosities in the case of the octopus Abdopus aculeatus, first documented in 2005. This small cephalopod can walk upright on 2 tentacles to mimic the movement of a crab or even a rock. Thanks to this ability, it manages to evade predators in extraordinarily creative ways. On the other hand, the history of air transport also offers some unique anecdotes. In 1911, pilot Henri Paquet carried out the world's first airmail flight in India, transporting 6,500 letters over a distance of more than 6 miles. Although it may seem like a short journey, this event marked the beginning of global air logistics. Today, this symbolic act is considered the starting point of the modern postal system. Of course, there is also a curious chapter in human evolution the existence of the fabular bone, present in the ankles of some people. Documented since the 19th century, it was thought to have disappeared thousands of years ago, but studies in 2019 showed that it is reappearing more frequently. Its return has puzzled anthropologists, as its function remains a mystery. In another vein, the universe offers us an extraordinary curiosity with the existence of the diamond planet known as 55 Cancri. Discovered in 2004, its carbon-rich composition and extreme pressure conditions suggest that a third of its mass could be made up of solid diamond. Something equally interesting occurs with the history of music, especially in the case of the composer Jean-Baptiste Lully. In 1687, during a rehearsal, he accidentally struck his foot with the staff he used to keep time, since a baton was not used at that time. The wound became infected, and Lully refused to have his leg amputated, which ultimately led to his death. Although many stories seem to spring from fantasy, several actually happened. For example, there is the strange case of the astronomer Tycho Brahe, who in 1566 lost part of his nose in a duel over a mathematical dispute. From then on, he used a metal prosthesis made of brass and silver, secured with a special glue. Paradoxically, despite his eccentricity, Brahe made the most accurate observations before the invention of the telescope. As if that were not enough, there is the surprising phenomenon of the boiling river in the Peruvian Amazon, studied since 2011 by geoscientist Andres Russo. Its waters reach temperatures exceeding about 194 degrees Fahrenheit, so hot they can cook small animals. The fascinating thing is that it is not located near a volcano, which baffled geologists for years. Similarly, it is striking that in 1919, during an expedition to West Africa, the explorer Michel Lesord documented the existence of trees that bleed a red, blood-like liquid. Although this might sound mythical, it was the Parocarpus erinaceus tree whose crimson sap intensifies upon contact with air. Speaking of unexpected discoveries, the 2012 discovery of the underwater forest off the coast of Alabama stands out. This submerged ecosystem contains cypress trunks over 50,000 years old, perfectly preserved by ocean mud. Thanks to this time capsule, biologists have been able to study unique marine species that inhabit only this ancient wood. Similarly, it is impossible to ignore that the world's first autonomous robot was created in 1952 by British engineer W. Gray Walter. His small automatons, called turtles, could move, seek light, and avoid obstacles using very simple circuits. Surprisingly, their behavior seems so alive that it even inspired debates about early artificial intelligence. Furthermore, there are stories as strange as the case of the CI-1 Orgueil meteorite, which fell in France in 1864. This space fragment contained complex organic molecules, some similar to those present in life on Earth. Now, in the medical field, a particularly curious event occurred in 1921 when surgeon Evan Kane decided to operate on himself to demonstrate that local anesthesia could replace general anesthesia in minor procedures. The doctor removed his own appendix in a surgery that lasted less than an hour. The success of his experiment contributed to the popularization of new anesthetic techniques. On the other hand, the natural world offers wonders such as the walking fish, Cryptotora thamicola. Discovered in caves in Thailand in 2016, this fish possesses a skeletal structure that allows it to move out of the water using movements similar to those of a salamander. Also noteworthy is the strange phenomenon of black snow in Russia in 2019, when several regions of Siberia awoke covered in a dark layer. Although many considered it an apocalyptic omen, scientists concluded that the phenomenon was due to soot emitted by nearby industrial plants. However, the literary world offers even more oddities, such as the case of the French poet Arthur Rimbaud, who abandoned writing at the age of 21, despite being considered a genius. After traveling through Africa from 1880, he became an arms dealer and explorer. As if that were not enough, the microbiological universe holds surprises like the bacterium Deinococcus radiodurans, discovered in 1956. Known as Conan the bacterium, it can survive radiation levels thousands of times higher than those that would kill a human. Its secret lies in its extraordinary ability to repair its own DNA. It is so resilient that it has even survived in space chambers exposed to a vacuum. On the other hand, in the world of sports, there is the story of athlete Dora Rotchen, who competed in Berlin in 1936. Decades later, in 1957, it was discovered that her real name was Heinrich Rotchen and that she had been forced by the Nazi authorities to compete as a woman to improve her chances of winning a medal. This case is one of the most controversial in Olympic history. Similarly, there is the intriguing phenomenon of animal rain, documented in various parts of the world. In 2005, for example, the city of Odzaci in Serbia reported a rain of thousands of frogs. Although it seems impossible, meteorologists explain that tornadoes and strong winds can lift small animals and carry them for miles before releasing them. This phenomenon has inspired myths since antiquity. Similarly, in the animal world, the octopus Abdopus aculeatus, formerly observed for the first time in 2005 near Indonesia, demonstrated the ability to walk on two tentacles while using the other six to camouflage itself among algae. Even in the realm of history, a little-known fact reveals that in 1730, the Ethiopian Emperor Iyasu II gifted a live giraffe to King Louis XIV of France. The animal became a sensation in Paris, inspiring paintings, poems, and even extravagant fashions in clothing that imitated its spotted pattern. Similarly, it seems almost magical that in 2018, Japanese researchers discovered that the Yoshino cherry blossom, cultivated since 1894, is actually a mass clone, millions of genetically identical trees that originated from a single specimen. At the same time, an inexplicable geological phenomenon occurred on June 30, 1908, in Tunguska, Siberia, when an explosion equivalent to about 185 Hiroshima bombs devastated more than 770 square miles of forest. Although the most widely accepted theory points to a meteor exploding in the atmosphere, no solid remains have ever been found. Likewise, in literature, an exquisite detail is that the original 1818 manuscript of Frankenstein, written by Mary Shelley, contains deletions made by her husband, Percy Shelley, who attempted to alter key phrases. This detail reveals that the first modern science fiction novel was a surprisingly collaborative work. As if that were not enough, in 2013, a team of paleontologists in China discovered fossils of a 125-million-year-old bird called Eoconfuciusornis. Its bones preserved traces of melanosomes, allowing scientists to deduce the true colors of its plumage, a reddish pattern with black spots. It was the first time the exact color of a prehistoric animal had been definitively reconstructed. Even plants hold impressive secrets, such as the case of the Phylostachys bamboo, which flowers synchronously every 120 years, regardless of its location in the world. The last mass flowering occurred in 1976, and the next one is expected around 2096, although no one can explain why all plants follow the same biological clock. Furthermore, in 1994, hikers in France discovered the Chauvet Cave, containing remarkably detailed 36,000-year-old cave paintings. They depict maneless lions, woolly rhinoceroses, and horses with expressions that still impress with their realism today. Meanwhile, the star UY Scuti, catalogued in 1860, remains one of the largest known stellar giants. Its diameter is so enormous that, if it replaced the Sun, it would extend beyond the orbit of Saturn, easily engulfing entire planets. Furthermore, in the Mojave Desert, there is a phenomenon that has baffled visitors since 1940, the spontaneous movement of the sailing rocks of Racetrack Playa. These rocks appear to glide, leaving long furrows in the dry ground. Only in 2014, thanks to GPS and high-speed cameras, was it discovered that thin layers of ice, driven by the wind, allow for this movement. As if that were not enough, the ocean harbors unexpected creatures such as the goblin shark, first identified in 1898 by David Starr Jordan. This shark has a sword-shaped snout and jaws that spring outward. Due to its ghostly appearance, it is considered a living fossil. Similarly, in Japan, there is a telephone that does not connect to any network but receives thousands of calls every year. It is called the wind telephone, installed by Itaru Sasaki in 2010 after losing a family member. People come to talk to deceased loved ones, especially after the tsunami of 2011. Although it is not a functional device, its emotional power has made it a symbol of grief and hope. On the other hand, medical science documents cases that defy expectations, such as that of Phineas Gage, who in 1848 survived having an iron rod driven through his skull. Although he lost part of his frontal lobe, he was able to walk and talk minutes after the accident. However, his personality changed radically. Interestingly, in the Middle Ages, there existed a manuscript so strange that many believed its author was possessed. This is the Codex Gigas, also called the Devil's Bible. Created around the year 1230, it contains a gigantic portrait of the devil, medical texts, and exorcism prayers. Legend says it was written in a single night thanks to a pact with the devil, although modern studies estimate it would have taken more than 20 years to complete. Even gastronomy has its share of surprising stories, like the accidental origin of French fries in 1853. Chef George Crumb, annoyed by a customer who kept sending back his fries because they were too thick, decided to cut them extremely thin and crisp them up as a joke. To his surprise, the customer loved them. From that day on, French fries became his signature dish. On the other hand, there is a lake in Tanzania that turns animals into statues. It is Lake Natron, whose highly alkaline waters reach a pH of 12. Animals that fall in become covered in salt deposits that petrify their bodies. Photographer Nick Brandt documented this macabre beauty in 2013. Despite their deadly appearance, pink flamingos nest there without any problems. Also fascinating is the story of King Pedro, the first of Portugal, who in 1360 crowned his beloved Inés de Castro queen, even though she had been dead for 2 years. After her political assassination, Pedro ordered her body exhumed, dressed in royal robes, and forced the nobles to kiss her hand. Volcanoes, in turn, conceal phenomena such as the so-called volcanic lightning. In 2016, the eruption of Mount Sakurajima in Japan produced thousands of electrical flashes around the ash column. This effect occurs when charged particles collide during the eruption. The spectacle has also been recorded in Iceland, Chile, and the Philippines, creating images that seem straight out of a fantasy film. In the field of modern medicine, the case of the bubble boy, David Vetter, moved the world from his birth in 1971. Due to a severe immunodeficiency, he lived for 12 years inside a sterile capsule. Although his life was short, his treatments paved the way for the first bone marrow transplants. His story remains a reminder of the power of medical research. Furthermore, in 2009, a team of archaeologists discovered the remains of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, a temple 7,000 years older than Stonehenge. Its columns, decorated with animal figures, suggest complex rituals in societies that had not yet adopted agriculture. This discovery completely changed the theory of how the first civilizations arose. In 2014, archaeologists in Romania found a cave sealed for 5.5 million years, known as Movile. Its toxic atmosphere of sulfur and methane is home to more than 30 species never seen outside of this location. Most incredibly, these species do not depend on sunlight, but rather on chemosynthetic bacteria that produce energy in complete darkness. Meanwhile, in the realm of nature, an extraordinary phenomenon was documented in Greenland in 2012, a river of blue light flowing across the surface of the ice. It was not running water, but a layer of microbubbles trapped in compressed snow, refracting the sun so perfectly that it resembled a luminous liquid flow. This optical effect, detected near Kangerlussuaq, only occurs at specific temperatures and under a very precise solar angle. Meanwhile, Japan is home to one of the world's longest-lived trees, a tree planted in the year 1000 AD next to Keio Temple in Nara. This cedar, known as Senbon Sugi, has survived fires, storms, and earthquakes for over 1,000 years. Monks say its longevity is due to rituals performed since the Heian period, although botanists attribute it to a unique combination of genetics and mineral-rich volcanic soil. History also contains almost forgotten moments. For example, the Lake Nyos incident in Cameroon, which occurred on August 21, 1986. A gigantic cloud of carbon dioxide emerged from the bottom of the lake and drifted down the valley, killing more than 1,700 people in a matter of minutes. Scientists discovered that the gas had accumulated for years until a small landslide triggered its release. Speaking of unusual phenomena, in 1973, an American airliner, Flight 182, accidentally flew through a red sprite storm, giant electrical discharges that occur in the upper atmosphere, before they were officially discovered. The pilots described luminous red columns rising into the sky, but no one believed them. It was not until 1989 that the first official images were captured, confirming that what they had reported was completely real. Similarly, in 2000, a team of archaeologists in China discovered the frozen body of a woman over 2,400 years old, whose skin was incredibly well preserved. Known as Lady Di, she had flexible joints, intact organs, and even traces of blood. Most astonishingly, no one understands how they were able to embalm her with such perfection, as the technology used still surpasses the medical knowledge of her time. Regarding the animal world, in 2013, a strange behavior was documented in Argentine ants. They form super colonies that stretch for thousands of miles without fighting among themselves. This occurs because ants from different regions share almost identical chemical markers, as if they were part of the same gigantic family. In 2020, a study revealed that octopuses, when stressed or irritated, launched jets of water specifically aimed at researchers. What is interesting is not only their aim, but that they seem to act driven by a kind of momentary bad mood. Meanwhile, in the realm of history, there is an almost forgotten event. The city of London was hit in 1952 by a toxic smog so thick that many could not see their own feet. This event, known as the Great Smog, caused around 12,000 deaths due to coal pollution. On the other hand, a red rock was discovered in the Sahara Desert in 1999 that turned out to be a fragment of an ancient, destroyed planet. Called Hypatia, it possesses chemical microstructures that do not match any terrestrial material or common meteorite. Its composition suggests that it comes from the early days of the solar system, perhaps even before the formation of the Sunday. This discovery raises fascinating questions about the materials that gave rise to our own planet. In the field of art, there is the Hope Diamond Curse, a 45-carat blue gem discovered in India around 1666. Several owners suffered tragedies that contributed to its sinister reputation, including the execution of Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette after they briefly owned it. Although considered superstition, its history full of coincidences has made it one of the most enigmatic objects in the Smithsonian Museum, where it has been housed since 1958. On the other hand, in 2005, paleontologists analyzing a 125-million-year-old fossil in China found melanosomes, allowing them to reconstruct the true color of ancient dinosaurs. This discovery completely changed our understanding, revealing that species like Sinosauropteryx had orange tails with white stripes. This finding demonstrated that many prehistoric creatures were more colorful than ever imagined. Something equally fascinating occurred in 1969 when astronaut Buzz Aldrin took communion on the moon. He did so in secret, as NASA preferred to avoid religious controversy, especially after lawsuits against Apollo 8. Aldrin carried a small chalice and consecrated bread, making this act the first sacrament performed off Earth. This detail remained hidden for decades. In 2014, scientists managed to observe a fish called Amphiprion ocellaris, using tiny, custom-made glasses to see how it perceived polarized light. The results showed that these fish can detect patterns invisible to the human eye, allowing them to communicate discreetly with each other. In 1859, a young naturalist named Alfred Wallace sent a manuscript from Borneo describing natural selection, unaware that Charles Darwin had been working on the same idea for 20 years. This historical coincidence forced them both to jointly present the theory in London. Paradoxically, Wallace was never bothered by this, stating that science does not belong to a name but to a truth. In nature, the Morpho-Menelaus butterfly does not get its bright blue color from pigments, but from the nanostructure of its wings. These microscopic layers reflect light at a particular angle, creating a metallic effect. Modern engineers have attempted to replicate this design to improve displays and optical devices. In 1943, during World War II, the Allies deployed a completely fake army composed of inflatable tanks, mock radios, and actor soldiers. This deception, known as Operation Fortitude, was led by the fictitious General George Patton. Incredibly, Germany believed the actual landing would take place in Calais, not Normandy. Thanks to this theatrical strategy, the D-Day invasion had a much greater chance of success. Speaking of ancient technological marvels, the Lycurgus vases, Roman cups from the 6th century BC, change color depending on the direction of the light, thanks to gold and silver nanoparticles embedded in their glass. This demonstrates that the Romans mastered nanometric techniques without understanding the modern science behind them. The effect, known as dichroism, remains one of the most beautiful examples of ancient scientific art. It is astonishing that in 1938, the German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig found an object in Baghdad that looked like an ordinary vessel, but contained an iron bar and a copper cylinder. Later called the Baghdad Battery, some believe it generated small electrical charges, suggesting that Mesopotamian civilizations understood electricity thousands of years before Edison. In Japan, there is a cultural phenomenon called hikikomori, documented since the 1990s, which describes people who completely isolate themselves from the world for months or even years. Some extreme cases have lasted for more than a decade. During the height of navigation in the 18th century, sailors feared a creature called the Kraken, described as a giant sea monster capable of sinking ships. In 1857, the Danish zoologist Japetus Steenstrup identified it as likely the colossal squid Mesonicoteuthis hamiltoni. This squid can measure up to about 46 feet and has tentacles with rotating hooks, fueling the legend with its terrifying appearance. In the field of linguistics, the Piraha language, spoken by an Amazonian tribe studied by Daniel Everett since 1977, lacks numbers, verb tenses, and specific colors. Even so, its speakers can communicate with extraordinary efficiency. Their way of conceptualizing time is so unique that it challenges universal theories of human grammar. In Australia, there is a rock called Uluru that changes color depending on the time of day. Mentioned in studies as early as 1870, it takes on a bright pink hue at dawn, a deep red at midday, and a profound purple at sunset. For the Anangu people, it is a sacred place whose formation is attributed to ancestral beings. Its cultural magnetism attracts millions of visitors. On the other hand, in 2013, archaeologists discovered the Harbin Man, a hominid skull over 140,000 years old found in China. What is impressive is that it does not fit neatly into the Homo sapiens or Neanderthal categories, leading to the proposal of a new species, Homo longi. Even the plant world holds mysteries, such as the Mimosa pudica plant, known since 1873, which folds its leaves when touched. This movement, called thigmonesty, is so rapid that it has no clear equivalent in most plants. Recent experiments suggest that plants can learn from repetitive stimuli, raising uncomfortable questions about intelligence in plants. In 2012, the tau neutrino, originally discovered in 1975 by Martin Pearl, was observed traveling from a distant supernova, confirming models that suggest these tiny particles pass through entire planets without interacting. Its detection demonstrates how little we still understand about the invisible universe around us. A shrimp's heart is actually located in its head, an anatomical detail that surprises even marine biologists. This peculiar location is due to the fact that its head is actually a fused cephalothorax where vital organs are concentrated. The brain and gills are also located there, all protected by a rigid shell. In Japan, there is a town called Nagoro, located in the Iya Valley, which became an eerie scene around 2014. As its inhabitants aged or moved away, the artist Ayano Tsukimi created life-size dolls to replace them. Currently, there are more than 350 figures distributed throughout the streets, schools, and empty shops. The result is a town where the silences seem denser than the wind. Oysters can change sex multiple times throughout their lives, depending on environmental factors and reproductive availability. This phenomenon was documented as early as the 18th century by French naturalists studying their cycles. The ostrich egg, considered the largest of any living species, can reach about 3 pounds in weight. However, it is still smaller than the fossilized eggs of large dinosaurs like titanosaurs. Fragments found in Asia and Argentina show enormous structures up to about 12 inches in diameter. They represent petrified memories of a time when the biological scale was different. In 1976, Belgium minted chocolate-scented coins to commemorate its chocolate-making tradition. The idea originated as an experimental tourism campaign during a local festival. Although eye-catching, they were not put into circulation due to obvious wear and tear. Today, they are highly sought-after collector's items among numismatists. Cats cannot taste sweetness because they lack the TAS1R2 gene, responsible for detecting sugars. This discovery stemmed from a genetic analysis published in 2005 by a team from Cornell University. While they may show curiosity about desserts, they do not actually perceive any sweetness. Evolutionarily, they never needed to, as their carnivorous diet does not depend on carbohydrates. There are sharks that glow in the dark, such as the giant lantern shark, Etmopterus lucifer, and the velvet belly lantern shark, Etmopterus spinax. Their bioluminescence was officially recorded in 2019 studies in New Zealand. They emit bluish light from their skin to camouflage themselves in deep waters where sunlight barely penetrates. In South Korea, there is a museum dedicated to ramen, opened in 2012 in Seoul. The museum explores the history of instant noodles and their cultural impact, showcasing everything from the first packages in 1958 to modern innovations. Visitors can sample unique recipes and learn about the globalization of this food. Niagara Falls can partially freeze under extremely cold conditions, as happened in January 1848 and on several recent occasions. Although water continues to flow beneath the ice, the surface can form impressive frozen sculptures. Photographers have documented these winter transformations, turning them into spectacular natural phenomena. The effect demonstrates the interaction of climate and geography. Darwin's frog raises its young inside its throat, a reproductive behavior documented since 1895. The male carries the fertilized eggs until fully formed tadpoles emerge. This adaptation protects the offspring from predators and harsh environmental conditions. It is a remarkable example of extreme parental care in amphibians. The first cat to go into space was Félicette, sent by France in 1963. The French space program sought to study the effects of weightlessness on mammals. Félicette survived the flight, and her scientific records helped prepare for subsequent human missions. Her story was forgotten for decades until a small monument was erected in Paris in her honor in 2019. In 1973, a man was arrested in North Carolina for stealing a tank to buy beer. The story made the rounds in American newspapers and went viral before the digital age. The man only managed to drive a few miles before being apprehended. This episode demonstrates how reality sometimes surpasses any attempt at absurd fiction. Reindeer eyes change color with the seasons. They are golden in summer and blue in winter. This adaptation improves their vision in low-light conditions and allows them to better reflect the scarce polar sunlight. Research in Norway and Sweden since 2013 has confirmed this physiological change. It is a fascinating example of how Arctic animals adapt to extreme conditions. The world's largest flower, Rafflesia arnoldii, can exceed more than 3 feet in diameter and weigh more than 24 pounds. Its smell of rotting meat attracts flies and beetles that pollinate the plant. It was first documented in Sumatra at the beginning of the 19th century and continues to be the subject of botanical study. Crickets can indicate the temperature by counting their chirps, a phenomenon described by the naturalist Amos Dolbear in 1897. His method, known as Dolbear's Law, allows one to estimate the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit based on the frequency of their sounds. This system is even used in entomological field studies. It is an example of how nature offers ingenious indicators of its environment. 80% of the world's volcanoes are underwater, forming mountain ranges and mid-ocean ridges that cover the seabed. Their activity, although less visible, plays a key role in crust formation and geological cycles. Geophysical and underwater studies initiated in the 20th century revealed these hidden structures. Alpacas cannot survive alone, as they are social animals that require companionship to maintain their well-being. Their herd behavior includes communication through sounds and body postures. Studies in South America show that a lack of companionship can lead to stress and health problems. The African elephant has the longest gestation period in the animal kingdom, lasting approximately 22 months. This extended period allows for the complete development of the fetus and ensures greater survival at birth. Ethological studies in reserves in East Africa have documented these reproductive cycles. Some stones can float like pumice, thanks to their porous and lightweight structure. This volcanic rock contains gas bubbles trapped during the eruption, which reduces its density. It can remain afloat for weeks without sinking. There is a fish called the penis fish because of its strange, elongated, and tubular appearance. Its scientific name is Eurechus unicinctus, and it primarily inhabits coastal waters of East Asia. Biologists study it for its adaptations to the substrate and its deposit-feeding diet. Its unusual shape makes it a striking example of evolutionary diversity in marine environments. Komodo dragons can detect blood from about 2.5 miles away, thanks to an extremely acute sense of smell. They use their forked tongues to sniff the air and locate wounded prey or carcasses. Research in Komodo National Park has documented their hunting and feeding strategy. Flatworms can regenerate their entire heads, including brains and sensory organs. Research since the 1960s has shown that even small fragments can grow into complete individuals. This fascinating ability has been key to studies of regeneration and stem cells. The driest place on Earth is not a typical desert, but the dry valleys of Antarctica, where no significant rainfall has been recorded for millions of years. These valleys form an extreme ecosystem with dehydrated soils and extremely low temperatures. Researchers use the area as a Mars analog for scientific experiments. Spiders cannot fly, but some species sail using silk threads as parachutes, a process called ballooning. Juveniles take advantage of air currents to travel miles without touching the ground. This behavior was observed by Charles Darwin and scientifically documented in studies of spider dispersal. The first recorded proper name is Kushim, dating back some 5,000 years, on Sumerian tablets from Mesopotamia. This name appears in commercial and accounting records, evidencing the early administration of ancient societies. The discovery has been studied by archaeologists since the mid-20th century. Frogs can freeze without dying, a phenomenon documented in species such as the wood frog, Rana sylvatica. During winter, their metabolism stops and the water in their bodies turns to ice, preserving organs and tissues. Comparative physiology research has revealed antifreeze proteins that protect cells. This adaptation allows amphibians to survive in extreme climates without migrating. The darkest planet discovered reflects less light than coal, absorbing almost 99% of the light it receives. Known as WASP-12b, it is a giant exoplanet close to its star, where extreme radiation causes it to faint. Its discovery was recorded in 2008 using space telescopes. This extreme world challenges our understanding of planetary reflectivity and color. Spiders can have up to 12 eyes, although most species do not use them for detailed vision. Their extra eyes allow them to efficiently detect movement and predators. Arachnological research has cataloged these variations since the early 20th century. A newborn calf can weigh as much as an average adult human, around 90 to 110 pounds. This considerable mass at birth gives them the strength to stand and quickly follow their mother. Veterinary studies show that this initial size is vital for survival in open rangelands. Bovine growth biology reflects evolutionary adaptations to predation and grazing. The ocean sunfish, or mola mola, can weigh up to 2 tons and measure over 10 feet in length. Its laterally compressed and flattened body gives it a unique appearance. Oceanographic research documents its diet of jellyfish and its migratory behavior. This giant fish is one of the heaviest in the world, captivating visitors with its size and appearance. There are volcanoes that erupt beneath glaciers, a phenomenon known as subglacial volcanoes. The pressure of the ice can contain explosions, but it also generates underground lava flows that alter rivers and lakes. Iceland and Antarctica are regions where these volcanoes have been intensively studied. Cockroaches existed before the dinosaurs, more than 300 million years ago. Their resilience and adaptability allowed them to survive mass extinctions. Fossil studies show that these insects have changed very little, demonstrating extraordinary evolutionary success. The survival of cockroaches demonstrates the ability of organisms to persist through vast environmental changes. The first barcode scanned was on a pack of chewing gum in 1974 in Ohio, United States. This innovation revolutionized modern commerce and logistics, automating inventories and payments. The invention was based on a system developed in the 1950s by Norman Woodland and Bernard Silver. Since then, the barcode has become a global standard for product tracking and control. Bats always turn left when leaving a cave, a flight pattern observed in various species. Ethological research suggests that this behavior is instinctive and helps avoid collisions. Experiments with artificial caves confirm that the tendency persists even under controlled conditions. The world's first photograph took 8 hours to capture, taken by Joseph Nicephore Niepce in 1826. His image, known as View from the Window at Le Gras, required continuous sunlight to fix the image on a pewter plate. This procedure marked the beginning of modern photography and the capture of reality on permanent media. In Colombia, there is a river that resembles a rainbow, Caño Cristales, famous for its red, yellow, and green colors that emerge from aquatic plants. This natural phenomenon occurs between July and November, when light and water conditions are ideal. Neuroscience research using magnetic resonance imaging has demonstrated this temporary reduction in volume. This phenomenon is part of the glymphatic system, which clears metabolic waste. Crows have funeral rituals, gathering around deceased members of their species and engaging in observational or mourning behaviors. Ethological studies have documented that these animals learn about dangers and predators through these ceremonies. The pressure inside the Earth's core is about 3 million times greater than at the surface, reaching roughly 52 million pounds per square inch. This enormous pressure, along with temperatures exceeding about 9,030 degrees Fahrenheit, influences the behavior of materials and magnetic flux. Geophysical research, through simulations and seismic studies, allows us to estimate these extreme conditions. The Earth's core is a natural laboratory of high-pressure, high-energy physics. Shooting stars can also be debris from human-made spacecraft re-entering the atmosphere, in addition to meteoroids and space dust. Satellites, rocket fragments, and space junk burn up upon contact with dense air. Astronomers have recorded these events and differentiated their origin through spectroscopic analysis. This phenomenon reminds us that even our technological creations interact with the cosmos. 90% of active volcanoes are located in the Pacific Ring of Fire, a zone of intense tectonic and seismic activity. This region encircles the Pacific Ocean and is home to countries such as Japan, Indonesia, and Chile. Geological studies show how plate convergence causes frequent eruptions. The Ring of Fire is a reminder that dynamic geology is constantly shaping our planet. There is a transparent fish called the Salpa maggiore, whose body structure allows internal organs to be seen with the naked eye. This gelatinous organism primarily inhabits deep waters and plays a key role in the oceanic food chain. Marine research has documented its biology and adaptations to minimal pressure and light. In Japan, there is a museum dedicated entirely to toilets, known as the Toilet Museum in Tokyo. This museum celebrates the technology, history, and culture of the bathroom, combining interactive and educational exhibits. Opened in the 1990s, it attracts visitors of all ages and nationalities. Biting into an apple can be more effective at waking you up than coffee, thanks to its fructose and fiber content, which stimulates circulation and provides immediate energy. Nutritional studies have compared the effect of fruit versus caffeine on alertness and cognitive performance. The act of chewing also activates facial muscles and sensory neurons. Wombat feces are cubic, a unique characteristic in the animal kingdom that helps them mark their territory without the feces rolling. Anatomy and biomechanics studies explain that its shape is due to the pressure and elasticity of the intestines. This curious fact has been extensively documented by Australian biologists. Tell us in the comments which of these facts surprised you the most. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and share for more fun facts.